So picture this. It's 1942. The Nazi war machine is tearing through the Soviet Union like wildfire. Entire cities are burning, and the skies over Eastern Europe are filled with dogfights. Brutal, personal, no mercy. And up there in that chaos is one Soviet pilot, Alexey Maresyev. Now, Maresyev wasn't just another pilot. He was that guy. Fearless, calm, under pressure. The kind of man who would rather die than give up a fight. He flew a Yak-1 fighter, fast, nimble, deadly. But one mission changed everything. It was April 4th, 1942. Maresyev's squadron was ordered to intercept a formation of German Focke-Wulf 190s, some of the best fighters in the Luftwaffe. He engaged them head-on, and for a few minutes he was winning. But then his plane took a direct hit. Oil burst across the cockpit. The engine screamed, flames started licking up from the nose. He had seconds, just seconds, to make a decision. He tried to land behind Soviet lines. Didn't make it. Instead, his plane slammed down deep inside enemy territory, hundreds of kilometers from home, in the middle of a freezing forest near Staraya Russa. His legs were shattered, his supplies gone. And just like that, Alexey Maresyev, one of the Red Air Force's best, became a crippled man, crawling alone through enemy snow. Imagine this. You crash deep in Nazi territory. It's snowing. Your legs are broken. You've got no food, no radio, no hope of rescue. That's where Alexey Maresyev found himself in April 1942. And for most people, that's game over. But Maresyev wasn't most people. When his Yak fighter went down, both his legs were badly injured. Fractures, deep frostbite, and open wounds from the crash. He could barely stand. But if the Germans found him, they'd either execute him or ship him to a camp. So he made a decision. Crawl. East. Home. For 18 days, 18 days, he dragged himself through the forest and snow, using sticks as crutches and his elbows to move an inch at a time. He melted snow for water, ate pine needles, berries, and even bits of bark. At night, he'd burrow under branches just to keep from freezing to death. Sometimes he could hear German patrols in the distance. Boots crunching on snow, dogs barking. He'd stop breathing until they passed. After a week, infection set in. He could feel the fever. His legs were swollen, blackening. He wrote later that he didn't walk anymore. He swam through snow like a wounded animal. And yet, he kept going. He started hallucinating, dreaming of food, warmth, home. He could barely tell day from night anymore. But on the 18th day, exhausted, starving, half dead, Maresyev saw something through the trees. Smoke. It was a tiny Soviet village on the edge of the Valdai forest. He crawled the last few meters, collapsed at the edge of a fence, and that's where two local boys found him. They carried him to the village, where villagers risked their lives to hide him from German patrols. He was unconscious, frostbitten beyond saving. And when Soviet troops finally reached the village and rescued him, doctors had to make a choice. They saved his life. But to do it, they had to amputate both legs below the knee. Most people would have given up right there. But Maresyev, he just smiled through the morphine and said, "I'll fly again." And everyone thought he was delirious, but he meant it. When Alexey Maresyev woke up in a Soviet hospital, he wasn't a war hero. He was a cripple. 2 legs gone. Bandaged stumps. The sound of warplanes outside that he would never fly again. At least, that's what everyone told him. The doctors said, "You should be grateful to be alive." His commanding officers said, You've done enough for your country. But Maresyev didn't buy any of it. See, he wasn't wired to quit. He told his nurses, straight up, "I'm going back to the front." They smiled politely, the kind of smile you give someone who's completely delusional. But they didn't know who they were talking to. While still recovering, he started exercising, using his arms to lift himself, trying to strengthen his body. And when they finally fitted him with prosthetic legs, he didn't just learn to walk, he forced himself to run. Every fall tore open his scars. Every step made his stumps bleed. But he kept going. Within months, the doctors couldn't believe what they were seeing. He was climbing stairs, jogging in hallways, even jumping small fences outside the hospital. But for Maresyev, walking wasn't enough. He wanted to fly. He petitioned the Soviet Air Force again and again, demanding to be reinstated as a pilot. They said no. He was physically unfit, a liability, a risk. So he started training in secret. Every morning, he went to an abandoned airfield with an old yak fighter, pulling the controls, memorizing the cockpit again, feeling the machine like it was part of his body. When officers finally came to inspect him, expecting to see a broken man, they found him performing a full pre-flight checklist by memory. And then he did something that changed their minds completely. He climbed into a plane, strapped himself in with his prosthetics, and taxied it perfectly down the runway. That's when command gave in. Maresyev was officially reinstated, not as a symbol, but as a combat pilot. And in June 1943, just over a year after losing his legs, he returned to the skies, flying a Yak-9 fighter on real combat missions. The same man who had crawled through snow on broken legs was now chasing German fighters again. And this time, nothing could stop him. June 1943. The air over the Eastern Front was chaos. Dogfights, bombings, smoke trails cutting through the sky. And in the middle of it all, a Soviet Yak-9 soared into battle. Inside that cockpit was Alexey Maresyev, the man who had once crawled through the snow with two shattered legs, now flying again on metal ones. No one believed he'd make it past takeoff. But the moment he took the stick, the fear was gone. Every movement, smooth. Every turn, sharp. The plane felt like an extension of his will. His squadron leader, Captain Chislov, radioed in disbelief. "Who's flying that yak?" "It's Maresyev," came the reply. Impossible. But it wasn't. In his first mission back, Maresyev went head-to-head with a formation of German Focke-Wulf 190s, the same kind of aircraft that had shot him down the year before. Only this time, the story ended differently. He scored 3 confirmed kills in one engagement. Even with prosthetic legs, he outmaneuvered younger pilots, both Soviet and German, with sheer instinct and experience. The legend spread fast. Soon, other pilots started calling him the man who couldn't be killed. But the truth? Maresyev wasn't superhuman. Every flight was agony. His stumps bled inside his boots. He had to strap his legs tightly before missions, so they wouldn't slip off during G-force turns. He never complained. By summer's end, he had flown 86 combat missions and shot down 11 enemy aircraft, all while flying on prosthetic legs. For his courage, he was awarded the Hero of the Soviet Union, the highest honor in the Red Army. And the story became so legendary that it inspired the novel The Story of a Real Man, which later turned into an opera, a film, and a national symbol of resilience. Even after the war, Maresyev never saw himself as a hero. He went back to study, became a writer, and lived a quiet life, the kind of life most men wouldn't have survived to see. When he died in 2001, Russia held a national day of mourning. Because Alexey Maresyev wasn't just a pilot, he was proof that the human spirit is harder to kill than the body.